thanks for coming. My name is Penny, and tonight I want to talk about something called multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed with it back in 2007, and it was the last thing I thought my doctor would ever tell me I had. It all started back in 2002, actually. I was having trouble with my left eye, I couldn't figure out what was going on. One day I went to work and one of my colleagues says to me, "What's the matter with your eye?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Now, I had trouble with that eye, focusing, and I was starting to see double, and I couldn't figure out what is going on. So I went to the doctors, and he told me that, you need to go see an ophthalmologist. I didn't know what that was. I only know what a neurologist is, and it had something to do with the brain. So I was like, okay, ophthalmic or whatever. I don't know these fancy words, but anyway, it was a neurologist that dealt with your eyes. Anyway, so he did a MRI of my eye sockets. And he comes back to me and he says, "Oh, I hate to tell you this, but you have an ocular tumor, and where it's at, it's inoperable." And I said, "Wait a minute. In less than 2 weeks, I'm getting married. You mean to tell me I have to go home and tell my husband-to-be that I might not be around for very long?" So I go back to my actual doctor and I tell him what he said. And he said, "Hold on for a minute. Let me go talk to my other colleague." So he goes and he talks to somebody, and he comes back and he says, "You don't have an ocular tumor. We just looked at your MRI." If he wasn't sure what you had, he should have never said something like that, because that's not the truth. The doctor come back, he spoke with and said that I had something called sixth nerve palsy, which is an inflammation of the sixth nerve in my eye. Inflammation, remember that word. So I had to wear a prism on the inside of my glasses for about 2.5 years, because by this time my eye had become so lazy it wasn't even funny. I couldn't get it to go straight. It was that lazy. Anyway, I got jokes, I know. So then in 2006, I started having problems again. I started having trouble with my legs now. And I was like, okay, I woke up one day and it felt like pins and needles. And I was like, I probably just slept wrong. I pinched a nerve or whatever. It'll go right. At the end of 2 weeks, I'm dragging my left leg around. And I was like, you know what? Something ain't right. So I was at work. I was down on my hands and knees cleaning the base of a toilet, and I couldn't get back up. And I called for my boss, and my boss had to drive me home. And I made an appointment to go see my doctor. And he sent me to a neurologist who said that we're going to give you a bunch of tests and we're going to figure out what's going on. So he put me in the hospital because I kept falling. Put me in the hospital, ran all sorts of tests. Finally, he said, "I'm going to have to do a spinal tap." I was like, oh. Now, I seen my sister have one when I was little, when she was little. It ain't pretty. So I got scared. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I've always been healthy. Where did this even come from? So I was like, okay. So I said, yeah, let's do the spinal tap. So he did the spinal tap. I was laid in the bed for 12 hours straight. Otherwise, you get a headache. And finally, 2 days later, he come back to me and he said, okay, we got your results back. And it came back that it's positive. But I don't know what you're positive for. And I said, what? And he's like, well, it ain't this and it ain't that. I said, well, try telling me something that it is so we know what it is. He said, hold on, there's one more test I want to test for. So he took another blood test and he says to me, this is for sure now. You have something called transverse myelitis, which is an inflammation, ding, ding, ding. Second time I heard inflammation of your spinal cord transversely. By this time, though, I was paralyzed from the waist down. In 2 days, I turned paralyzed. And I stayed like that for 2.5 years. In the middle of that 2.5 years, it was January of '07. I had trouble. I went to the doctors. I had trouble. He says, I'm going to take a new MRI of your brain and your spine, thoracic and lumbar. I said, okay. It's like a 3-hour MRI. Now, I'm highly claustrophobic, so they got to give me something that practically put me to sleep because, yeah, you ain't putting me in this little tiny tube with this much room and expect me to stay still and be calm. No, ain't working. So 3 hours later, I come out, go back to my room. Doctor comes in. He said, I'm sorry, I have to tell you this, but you definitely have multiple sclerosis. What? Nobody in my family has multiple sclerosis. It's either cancer or high blood pressure or diabetes. Let's get back to the cancer thing though. You know, I wouldn't wish any kind of disease on anything or anybody, but where did I get MS from? I have no clue. So I started with having to figure out different ways of doing things because I was not able to do them the way I usually do them. So like everything in my life on a daily basis had to change. But I'm here now. I lost 130 some pounds. I had help, but that's another video. But from losing all that weight, my knees thank me, my bank thanks me, and I'm able to actually walk, because there for a while I was in a motorized chair, and I ain't going down like that because I don't have MS. MS has me, and it better look out. Have a great night and stay tuned for new videos.